Hello and welcome to part 3 of our speaker series, How to Improve Your Public Speaking. So today we're going to look at the perceived incompatibility of the idea that authenticity is very important. You should try to be yourself, be authentic in public speaking, but also we have this problem of people often talk about the usefulness of modeling, of trying to imitate or copy other people, and can these things coexist? Well, spoiler alert, they can. So, authenticity is a really key part of good public speaking. People do not like to feel that when they're listening to someone speak, particularly if they are an audience and they are listening to public speech, that the person isn't being honest or true to themselves or saying what they mean or however you want to phrase it. They want to feel that what they're hearing is heartfelt or true or whatever. And these sorts of descriptors, like heartfelt, are often used almost in place of words like meaningful. As such, it behooves us to not try to play a character when we do public speaking, not try to speak in a voice that we imagine is the correct public speaking voice, whatever that might be, but rather to just speak in our own natural style. And if you're like, I don't know what my natural speaking style is, it's the style you speak in naturally. It's how you speak when you speak to your mates or when you speak to your family or your friends. I realize that that might modulate slightly between different peers or groups, but you'll have a particular type of speaking style. Some of you are going to be like quite taciturn, some of you very like active speakers, some of you are very sarcastic, some of you are very deadpan. We all have our own public speaking style because we all have our own speaking style. Now, it's important that we sort of find that baseline when we are actually speaking in public. Now, you shouldn't sound any different when you're publicly speaking than when you're speaking. The only difference is more people in a room. Don't alter how you speak because of a number of people in a room. There's no sense to that. But you will find that when you get in front of audiences, that you probably speak a little bit differently than you do when you're just having a conversation. It might be that you speed up because you're nervous, or you might be sort of more emphatic, or whatever else. The way to kind of find that out and figure out what your current baseline is, or what you currently are like authentically as a public speaker, is just to do a bunch of public speaking. It doesn't have to be important speeches in front of thousands of people. Do debating competitions or do public speaking competitions, mooting, MUN, presentations. Just try to do is enough that you now feel you have a read on what you're like as a public speaker. And it should be very similar to what you're like as a speaker. But that baseline is important because once you know what you are like, then and only then can you start to progress towards what you would like to be as a public speaker. The problem is that if you don't know what you are like as a public speaker, and you have this idea in your head of what you want to be like, you have no idea what needs changed, what doesn't need changed. And what inevitably happens, and this is why so many people are bad at public speaking but also find it so overwhelming and stressful, is because they think they have to sound like this idea in their head, this image, this perfect public speaker. And that's a character, that's not who they are. And so they've got all the stress of trying to perform like this character, which is unnatural and weird. But they've also got all this stress of just, public speaking can be quite nerve-wracking. And when you combine those two things, this pressure of the audience or the pressure of public speaking and the pressure of trying to be someone that you're absolutely not, those sort of, combust. It's too much, it overloads you. And the same thing will happen even if you establish that, okay, I am X, but I would like to be Y, I guess I'll change everything I need to all at once. Again, doesn't make sense, right? If you want to change your body composition, right? If you want to like gain some muscle, lose some fat, etc., you want like bigger legs, bigger arms, smaller waist, you can't just expect all that to change overnight, right? There would be a process, and it would probably behoove you to focus on a small number of things than try to change everything about your life at once, right? As such, we want to have our style and then pick out some things that we might want to change, then pick one and work on that. And then later we'll work on other things. So maybe you want to work on pacing. Maybe you want to try and inject more humor. Maybe you want to appear more calm or emphatic or authoritative. These are all great goals. You just have to pick one at a time. Now, it's important to say that the style that you have, which is your natural style, is not locked in. It's not static. You can change it, right? Because you can change you can change almost everything about yourself. You can change your personality, even though you have a natural personality. You can change your conversational style, even though you have a natural conversation style. I mean, my accent has literally changed over the last 10 years because since 2012, I think I haven't lived in Scotland for about 5 of those 10 years. So my accent has definitely softened out, not deliberately, it's just an unfortunate consequence of not being in Scotland, but my natural accent has changed, and I'm sure that since I was at uni, my natural personality has changed, and my natural conversation style will have changed. We change over time. That's the nature of being alive. So you're not locked into your style. So when I say find your natural style, I'm not saying find it and then accept it and just move on with your life if it's not what you want. I'm saying find it and then we can start changing it one bit at a time. Now, this involves experimentation. It involves you realizing, okay, I think I speak too fast. I'm going to try speaking slowly. That's a fairly simple experimentation. I mean, if you feel you're speaking too fast, you kind of know the fix, right? You have to speak slower. That probably means things like breathing every time there's a sort of natural pause or full stop. It probably means recording yourself and then trying to do the same speech but slower. It probably means writing slow in your notes. That's what a lot of my students do. And the thing is, when you first do it, it's going to feel quite uncomfortable because it won't be natural. It's not your natural style by definition. And so it will feel like you're a little bit outside your comfort zone and it might not feel great. That's okay. It's important that when you experiment, you don't expect everything to just feel better at once when you try something, and that you both get some internal feedback, meaning you record yourself having experimented with a new idea and listen back and see if you sound better, not just if it felt better while you were doing it, but it sounds better once you're listening to it. Also, always good to get some external feedback. You know, have people talk to you and say, oh yeah, no, I think that was much, much clearer when you were slower, even if it didn't feel as good to you. Now, pace is a very easy thing to recognize and relatively easy to fix. Something like injecting humor or being more emphatic is a lot more difficult because it's not as simple as speak slower. And so when we're looking to alter our styles, what really helps there is modeling. And that's where we get to the second part of this video. Now, to be very clear, modeling is not copying or imitating. You should not be trying to sound like Barack Obama, or like Akala, or like Nicola Sturgeon. You should be learning from them by stealing things that they do very, very well when you wish to work on an aspect of your game. So if you really want to be more calm under pressure, then it will be very useful to watch Nicola Sturgeon in interviews and notice how she deals with overly aggressive interviews or with hostile audiences or when she is feeling the pressure. If you want to be a more analytical speaker, you know, it's very good to watch Akala when he's asked questions and the sort of methodical way that he answers things and see what you can learn from that. And part of that is copying them a little bit. Like, there are definitely micro aspects of a speaker that you can learn to imitate that might be useful. I would say that I've learned a lot about humor from watching comedians in general, but in particular, I think Bill Burr is a comedian whose sense of humor is sort of more naturally aligned to me, and therefore I find it easier to kind of use his type of humor in my public speeches than I would say the humor of a Taylor Tomlinson or a Russell Brand. But it's not as simple as sort of Control C, Control V, right? It's not just copy and paste. As such, it's really, really useful to watch these people a lot with a very conscious eye on the one thing you're trying to fix, and to really focus on one thing at a time, probably for months. And then when you feel that you've really like beefed up that part of your performance, then see if there's something else you want to watch. Something else you want to select, and then watch things to help you with it. So modeling is a great tool, but it's not easy, it's not imitation, and it has to be done one step at a time. Now, the very last thing to say on this is that there will be trial and there will be error within these experimentations. Sometimes you might try really hard to change a part of your game or part of your performance and realize it's just not realistic. There are certain things I can't do as a public speaker, and that's true for everyone. When I look at Dr. King, my favorite public speaker, speak, there are a multitude of things that he does as a speaker that I just simply couldn't pull off. Elongation of vowels, just being the smallest of them. And, just have to accept that, right? There are things I can learn from Dr. King, but there are other things where I just have to be like, he's just different. He's also better, but that's not the lesson I'm trying to give. The lesson is that some people are just different. Now, even though you have a natural style, even though you're going to modulate that and develop a new natural style, you're not locked into one very particular monotonic style at any given point in time, because of course, in conversations, you are slightly different with different people and in different moods, right? Like I'm different when I'm two of my best mates were visiting recently, and we were having like a sort of, I mean, we're not lads, but it was like three of us having like laddie banter. And that's very different to how I would speak to my students, and how I would speak to my partner, and how I speak with my friends, and how I would speak to my colleagues. Now, there's going to be a lot of similarities because I'm not that different depending on who I'm with, but I'm a little different. And that's also true of public speaking. You can be a little bit more solemn when you're discussing like a problem in the world. You can be a little bit more analytical when you're discussing plausible solutions, and you can be a little bit more emphatic or hopeful or uplifting or rhetorical when discussing like the potential future if we decide to pursue certain solutions to this problem, right? So you can change for different formats, you can change for different audiences, and you can change within a speech. Your style shouldn't be completely static. That's not the point of this video. It's just that there should be a general authenticity around you, because you should generally try to speak like you normally do, with very deliberate and relatively few modulations. Next time, we'll talk about selecting speech topics, which I think is super fun. Hopefully a much shorter video, because I really think with selecting speech topics, the sort of TLDR is pick stuff that interests you. And we'll say more on that next time. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Comment below or give us an email if you have any questions, or if there's anything you'd like us to make a video on, then let me know, because that'd be super cool for us to do. Thanks.